Kuromukuro Episode 1, A Clash of Wills. This is a pretty good first episode for the season. I'm excited to get into it. Finally got back to it after finishing Season 1. I'm going through kind of back and forth between all the Netflix anime right now that I'm reviewing at least. And I'm excited for this. I think this was a really cool start. Of course, with the way the premiere or the finale ended, it was like, okay, well, we have the actual princess alive. We don't know if she's actually an alien or, that was still a bit of a mystery from some of the flashback stuff that they had from the first season. And she comes in and her move is to stab Kennosuke. So she stabs him. Fortunately, of course, he ends up surviving that. But before he can be killed, a random person seems to come in, and I have to assume that it's Yuki's dad. Like, that's the only guess that I have, is that it's him. He has a super cool mask. It seemed a little bit similar. You don't really get to see what's going on with Yuki, during that episode when she was like taken and rescued. So we don't really get to see much about that actual person, but I feel like that might be your dad. Like, we have no real clues to who this guy is just yet, but he comes in, for whatever reason, he decides to fight against the princess, if she truly is the same, person, I guess. So he fights against her, and he ends up teaming up, with the rest of the good guys. But of course, he's still an ogre. He's the one who actually has like the face of an ogre, so I assume it's a mask. Even though, of course, everyone believes that that's his actual face, I still think it's like a robot mask or something. But he ends up teaming up with all the good guys to take on the princess, who's a pretty awesome fighter. She was really cool. But, of course, they ultimately have to take off. He takes off because, of course, he's still an ogre, so they want to capture him. She takes off because they're trying to kill her. So they both end up escaping, and then the princess calls her ship down, and then we find out that she's going to be teaming up with the other person that had, like, the hidden Mukuro, like, randomly in the area. So I thought that was pretty awesome. Ends up being that when they team up, they don't exactly team up. So we have Kennosuke, who should be wounded for quite some time. He ends up waking up and is like, he's healed super fast. It's like, okay, well, that answers some questions, because clearly he's not human. That was a big question, like, is he human, is he not human? He healed way too fast, so he's clearly not human. That's kind of expressed based on the fact that he's able to get up and walk around in this episode after having been stabbed. He's up a couple hours later. So it's very clear that he is not human, but we still don't really know if he's an ogre. We don't know if there's still any truth to what happened in the first season, where it's like, oh, you betrayed us, like, you're one of us. So we still don't know if these people that look human are the ogres, or if, like, the person in the mask is an actual ogre, because it could be. I could easily be wrong. I just assume that it's going to end up being Yuki's dad, and we find out that, he was just wearing that mask because that's what he knew the ogres as, just like Kennosuke. So we'll find out what happens with that. But definitely an awesome first episode. The action was really good. Had a very interesting moment with the kid who likes to film everything, and he almost gets killed because Princess Yuki, I'm just going to call them both Yuki, but she's running at him, and he's just standing there. He's like, oh man, is this the, like, he even says, like, oh, is this the end of the cameraman? And like, the dude jumps in front of him to take the hit, and it kind of stuns him, like, oh crap, human lives matter. Like, human life, like, it truly does matter. Like, lives do matter, and so, mine matters. This guy needs to, matter as well. And it's just like, he saw human life for the first time, beyond his camera. Like, he never even cared about his own. So it was an interesting little moment. I don't know if it'll really evolve from there, but I was like, oh, that's interesting that they seem to do that, because it was clear that he just was like, this is cool, and film this and film that, but he was the direct cause of someone else getting hurt because they were protecting him. And I just thought that was an interesting little moment to have, where it's like, that's a bit of development for him, and we'll see if they keep that going. But I like what we got from this episode. The action was pretty cool at the end. Everyone has to team up to take on these two ogres. And, Kennosuke and Yuki weren't doing too well because Kennosuke was wounded, but he still wanted to go out and fight. But he was also kind of holding back because it's like, that's the princess and stuff. So I like the way that it was playing out. They're basically getting beat up, and then Yuki comes up with this plan. Like, it doesn't seem like they're truly working together too well. So if the three of us work together like an actual team, we can take them down, no problem. And that's ultimately what ends up happening. They destroy one of the ships, or, wound it really badly. So Princess Yuki ends up taking her partner, and they both end up escaping. And I'm just excited for where things might be headed. It seems like it's going to be a pretty good second season. I like the opening for this, and I like the opening for the first season as well. But I like the opening for this one, and I'm very excited for some more answers, because there's a lot of questions, like, Kennosuke's true origins as I would assume at this point, based on what I saw, definitely not as a human. So I want to know his origins. I would definitely want to know who the guy actually was, if it really was Yuki's dad, or if it was someone totally different, and if that's actually his face, if that's what ogres really look like. And then this species is totally different, but they are somehow related to the ogres in some way, shape, or form. So there's still a ton of mysteries. Nothing really answered in this first episode outside of like the actual hint, even though it's an obvious hint that Kennosuke is not human for sure. Outside of that, it's still a big mystery. Why is the princess alive? Was she always one of the creatures? Was her mind controlled or altered? Million different questions that just have no answers whatsoever. But definitely a good first episode. Excited to be back into the series. Looking forward to some more action, and I'm really looking forward to seeing where the characters go after the development they've had from the first season. Very excited to see how things kind of take off in this one, even though it takes place right after, like it's literally you go from one season to the next. So it's not like there's a time skip or anything where people have been training, but there are goals that characters have had. The guy who wants to be with Yuki and kind of impress her and stuff like that. So I want to see, how his character develops, and how, the cameraman, how he ends up developing. So there's still some stuff that I definitely want to see from the characters, but really good first episode. Excited to go into this season. I assume there's going to be some answers based on all the questions that, came up from the first season. So that's like my main prediction, is that there will, if not everything is answered, there will at least be some answers, because there's got to be some answers based off of everything that's happened. It's like, what is Kennosuke? Did he lose his memory? Was he always good? Just all these different things. Like, you have a dude from the past who isn't dead, but no one knows where he is. He left his wife and child. He knew the ogres would come back, and it's just like, well, what's his deal? Where is he at? Was that him in the costume? So, a million different questions. What does he really know? But I'm excited to get some answers from this season. But like I said, really enjoyed this first episode of Season 2. Excited to get into the rest of it. Of course, I would love to know what you guys thought about this first episode. So please comment below. Let me know your favorite parts about it, your least favorite parts about it. And based on this first episode, I would love to know what your predictions are, and just what you guys want to see or want to get from Season 2 as far as answers or anything in general. Just what you guys want to see, even if it has nothing to do with the story. Maybe you just want to see more action. I would love to see some more action sequences. I really enjoyed the one in this one because it was a lot of teamwork, and I feel like it was different than how they normally do it, because it was a lot of hand-to-hand combat. And typically you have Kennosuke and his the Kuromukuro, they always do hand-to-hand combat, or giant like laser katanas and stuff. So that's really awesome, and I think that's cool, and we got to see that in this. But normally the other two teams always use guns. Like, they do a little hand-to-hand or up-close combat, but normally it's like, alright, well, we get in close, we get through the shields, and then we blast them at point-blank range. And that's pretty much it. But this was like, they were trying to do it, and all their lances were getting chopped up and stuff, and I was like, okay, they have to go into like some physical combat, or at least dodging, physical attacks. So I think I enjoyed this fight the most. As far as within the mechs, my favorite fight is still when Kennosuke actually fought the dude at the facility, because they were actually doing like a natural samurai duel. So that's still my favorite above all. But this had a lot of like close quarters combat compared to some of the stuff we've seen before, which normally has a lot of close quarters. But I think because it was like basically, I'm just going to call them boss enemies, but it was like two boss enemies versus the main characters, it lasted way longer than most of the other ones, outside of like the very first fight that they had, because they were dealing with a lot of brand new elements. So they got surrounded there, but they were still mostly dealing with the main person. Then the other little robots would like try to do sneak attacks every once in a while. But this was just like all out. We're fighting both of them, and then they bring in their teammates, and then it's 3-on-2 instead of 2-on-1, and they have to work, really work around with this teamwork and figure out how to actually take out both these enemies, who are clearly strong and have very unique, machines as well. Because the princess had, like at the end, they considered the Medusa because it's like hair, and she had like 8 blades and stuff. And then the other character, hers could like flip, so the legs that were on the bottom could also be the arms that are on top, because she was like flipping around, and she would just jump forward and then land on what looked like they would be the arms, and it was just legs again. So it was like it could just flip and flip. And I was like, okay, that's really unique too. So I'm sure we'll see both of those come back. But really enjoyed this battle. It's probably my favorite mech battle that the show has had for sure. But excited to see where they go with this. Like I said, want to know what you guys thought about this first episode of the season, and of course what your predictions are, where things might be headed, and just what you guys want to see in general. So please comment below, let me know, and thanks for watching.